Hi YouTube, this is Joe Kelton with Kelton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, keltoncutlery.com. So today we're going to continue the Gerber multiplier. You know, one of these wonderful little multi-tools right here. Today we're going to continue talking about these and the cleanup or refurbish or whatever you want to call it of this one that's underneath the microscope right here. And like I said, it was a used one that I picked up from a pawn shop or a flea market or wherever. Honestly, I don't even remember when I got it. I know it's been in one of my toolboxes for quite a while, and I'm cleaning it up, getting it ready to put it in my hunting pack. So let's see. The first video we did was just a review of this one and the one that we're working on. The second one was sharpening the wire cutters, and on that one we got some amazing footage, you know, up here underneath the microscope on the big TV, and I thought it was pretty dang cool. I will say, when sharpening the wire cutters on these, what I showed you the other day with the file only works on multi-tools that have got jaws, or the wire cutters are soft enough that you can cut them with a file. If they are not soft enough, if you hit them with a file and the file just skates, then what you can do is you can try a diamond sharpening stone, especially like a small one. You can get in there because diamonds will cut things that files won't. It might take a little bit longer, but pretty much it's the same principle. So anyway, so today what we're going to talk about is the Phillips head screwdriver on these. Okay, if you ever use a Phillips head screwdriver a whole lot, especially like under power, like in a drill or something like that, they tend to get rounded off quite a bit. In a tool like this, they will tend to get rounded off, not quite as often because these tools are not under power. But if you use these tools an awful lot, then you use them, you might use that thing, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 times a year. Well, you multiply that by 10 years and it's pretty quick, these Phillips heads start wearing out. On a drill bit, or a drill, something that's got these little bitty inserts, where these things are like $3 per dozen at Home Depot or something. When you strip one out, round it over to where it's not working right, then you throw it in the trash can. On something like this, it's part of the tool. It's one of the folding things, but it's you just can't run to Home Depot and get a dozen of them for $2.50. It's not. I guess you could call up Gerber and see if they had extra ones that you could replace it with, but short of that, there's not really a whole lot of throwing away and replacing it. So I'm going to show you how to clean one of these up and make it pretty much like new again, and that way you can get another decade or 2 decades worth of use out of the thing, and it'll only take a couple of minutes. It'll take longer to explain it because we've got the microscope out and we'll try to be getting pictures and kind of explaining what goes into it. But when it comes right down to it, as soon as you watch the video a time or two and then you sit down to do it, you'll sharpen the whole thing in 5 minutes or so. Okay? All right, so we're getting in front of the TV. And of course, I hit this. Alright, so this is that kind of beat up multiplier here. And it's the Phillips head, the Phillips head bit. Now, you can kind of tell these two sides right here I didn't really mess with, okay? These two sides over here, or maybe it was just the back side. No, I started cleaning this one up also. I started cleaning it up, and then I thought to myself, I said, Self, you ought to video this. So you can see that one right there I actually cleaned up a little bit. And it's kind of a tough one to kind of get to lay down. But, so what happens is, come on. There. And I don't have one that's like really misshapen and worn out, because honestly I throw them away. This one right here was the closest I could find. And this one right here, you can tell that I was using it on a drill, and it just knocked all these shoulders off. Okay, so if you can imagine, if we can get these things side by side and in the same spot, there we go. So if you can imagine, every time you put a Phillips head screwdriver into a screw and you turn it, okay, you're going to create a little bit of wear on here. All right, now that wear is going to be accelerated if you are sloppy, if the screwdriver doesn't get all the way into the screw head, like let's say it's a screw head that's been painted, and so there's there's some paint in the bottom of that screw head. So then instead of the screwdriver fitting all the way down in there, it just fits in there just a little bit, and there's some wiggle. Okay, when that happens, you run a much higher chance of starting to round this off. On a power driver, as soon as you start knocking these shoulders off a little bit, it just gets worse, and it gets worse in a hurry. Okay, and then pretty much you strip off the top portion of it, and then this is this bottoms out in the screw pocket, and then so it can't go in any deeper, and this just rotates and usually just burns up the head of the driver. Okay, so this right here is kind of sort of starting that. You can see how this portion right here is it's kind of sharp, so it's coming to a ridge instead of being flat. All right, so see, like right here, this one's nice and flat. This is kind of rounded a little bit, and that's okay. But once it starts getting to a sharp edge like that, it won't be too much longer before this starts rounding off also. Okay, so actually this is just like sharpening it. All we're going to be doing is reshaping this. Now this particular screwdriver here, the reason that we can get away with this is that it's because it is out of square stock. Okay, so this is an awful lot like a pencil. Okay, so that point was created out of the body. So we can sharpen this point and make a new point right here, and then make a new point right here, and then make a new point, and then work our way back until the pencil is completely used up and it is no good. We can do the same thing with this screwdriver because it is built out of square stock. So all we have to do is grind each one of our flutes more or less equally to bring that back. So we'll take this point and we'll move it down to here. As we move this down to here, it will move this down to here, this down to here, this down to here. Okay, as long as we maintain our angles, that's what will happen, and we can actually use up this whole screwdriver by making a new screwdriver as needed. Okay, so again, your best friend in sharpening, besides whatever it is you're using to sharpen, is our red magic marker. Okay, because it'll let us know where we are removing material. So let's go ahead. And mark up that tooth. We'll give it a second to dry. And all we're going to do is we're going to use a silicon carbide stone. This is kind of an old one. I don't know if it's a Norton or Craftsman or who it is, but it's an older silicon carbide stone. And all we're going to do is we're just going to use the corner. Remember how we did how we sharpen the bread knife using the corner of the stone? Well, that's pretty much what we're going to do here. Okay, so we're just going to use the corner, and this is a really good way to use up your stone. Typically these stones, you will dish them in the middle, and so you know, it doesn't hurt nothing to go ahead and use the corners for different jobs, because you know that kind of helps to use the whole stone evenly. By the time you get this too rounded over, this will probably be dished out from another use, and it'll be time to flatten the whole thing again. On this job, we're not really going to mess with using lubricant or anything. You could probably take this tool out, but then there's not going to be a whole lot left to hold on to. You know, you'll be holding on to that little bitty screwdriver head, you know, instead of the whole dang thing. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the corner of the stone, and we're just kind of feel around a little bit. Okay, and kind of feel, all right, well, where are we contacting, you know, here and here at the same time? And it kind of feels to me about like there. So we'll just try to maintain that angle. We'll do a couple of strokes like this just to kind of get a feel for things. Now we'll put it up underneath the scope and see how we did. Now, if you don't have a scope like this, which probably most of you won't, you just have to look at it, okay? But the thing is that this camera won't focus down on, you know, that screwdriver bit through the magic of YouTube, as well as you just sitting there looking at it will. So this is just a, you know, a nice teaching aid. Okay, so if you look at where we ground away the red magic marker, we ground it away up here, and we ground it away here, a little bit on the sides, some up in here, but not in the middle, which is perfectly okay. That means that the angle of our stone, you know, the roundness of it, doesn't match up perfectly with this, which is just fine. All we're trying to do is clean that up a little bit. But you could tell that I definitely favored, where are we at again? You can tell I kind of favored a little bit on this side, because this is ground down and this is not. This is ground down and this is not. So what that means is that I'll have to twist the tool a little bit as it gets presented to the stone. About like that. There we go. Okay, so now you can see I now you can see I clean this up and clean this up. What this is doing is, if I go to the next one, the next flute, and go ahead and do the same thing, it'll actually create sharp edges on here. Okay, so you'll have like a 4-fluted sharp edge there, like a chisel. And that's what we're going to go for. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right quick and make all 4 edges like that pretty much the same. And then we'll get back to you. Now, something like this, where you're putting an awful lot of pressure on a small portion of the stone, it will make the stone wear down more in that area. And if it gets to the point where, you know, the round section is too wide, just move to another section. In my readers. There we go. Sure helps to be able to see what it is you're doing. Alright, so we just got that one. And that looks pretty good. Okay, let's retime the camera. back in here. Okay, so now you can kind of see how each one of those is cleaned up considerably. How there's not a whole lot of burrs and kind of nasty rough spots and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's not a perfectly even job, but honestly I don't believe it needs to be. Now see right here, we've still got some of the factory flat there, but we've ground up here to an edge. Same way right there, we've got a little bit of the factory flat right here, but then it's kind of tapering off. So now what we need to do is, let's get this back and get it back in focus. So now what we need to do is we need to make that portion look like kind of like that. Okay, so now we've got all this cleaned up, but we need to make these flat sections right here, because that flat is what's going to be registering on the inside of the head of that screw. And all we do for that is we just knock these edges off on the face of the sharpening stone. And that'll just take a couple of strokes on each one. Can you see what I'm doing there? Yep. Seems like I'm missing one. There it is. And you can use the edge of your stone, you know, the face of it. I mean, pretty much whatever you want. Okay. Now, see how much cleaner that looks? Okay. That is going to be able to turn screws, you know, for another, well, however many uses until it goes, until it gets deformed and kind of goes dull again. See how we got these nice flats right here that will correspond with the inside of, you know, this is like a drywall screw. And actually, here we go. Let's do this. Let's put this back. Oh no, that's there. Okay, that's our screwdriver. That's the head of our screw. And see, it fits on there and holds pretty well just with friction. It's holding in again. Alright, so, and it's got a good grip, and I'm not really feeling any slop in there. Now, if you really wanted to, you know, I mean, I guess you could probably go, I mean, it seems like folks are awful obsessed with, you know, scratch patterns and, you know, making sure everything's on a fine stone and putting everything to a mirror polish. But honestly, that with a, you know, the coarse side of that stone, which is like a 100 or 180 grit finish, something like that, that's going to turn screws just as fine as it, and probably even a little bit better than if you were to mirror polish it. Okay, because if you mirror polished it, then it would tend to kind of slip out, especially since most mirror polishing, you don't get as clean of planes unless you are really paying attention. Okay, and if you've got any kind of roundness, or if you like buffed it or something like that, you would kind of round these flats off and then it wouldn't grip as well. That, and honestly, to tell you the truth, I could not care less if my screwdriver was a mirror polish. I mean, I really couldn't. And I honestly don't think that the screws could tell the difference or care if it was a mirror polished finish on your screwdriver either. So again, this video is just for those of us that, like to take care of our tools. I mean, you saw that. I mean, if you were subtract out the putting it on the microscope, all that kind of stuff. I mean, start to finish tuning that screwdriver up would take, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. And yes, it will take a little bit off of the corner of your sharpening stone, but that'll be kind of a good thing, because the next thing is going to be sharpening up the serrated blade and the clean blade. We might do, we might do short videos and do one on each. Yeah, I mean, it'll be pretty quick. But I will say that a round edge on your sharpening stone works really, really nice for getting inside those scallops on a serrated blade. All right? So, for those of us that, enjoy keeping our tools in good working order and, keeping them around for as long as we can until they are truly wore out, I hope you enjoyed the video. You guys that, buy a tool and then use it until it quits working perfectly and then, throw it away and go get another one, well, instead of throwing it away, start throwing them our way so that, we can keep using them. Put them in pawn shops, flea markets, yard sales, eBay, stuff like that, and then we'll pick them up, put 2 or 3 minutes worth of work into them and use them for another decade or two. So again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can visit me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time.